So I'm gonna laser my share at the beginning just to say that this song is called Let It Go, and in the process of letting go of my marriage and moving through a divorce and letting go of things that no longer bind me, I was able to come to some quietude to see where is it that I give my gifts, that I serve the world. And it became very clear that speaking, singing, teaching, writing, and becoming a practitioner and minister are those gifts among many others that I have to give. And in this process, the song for me is about both letting go of those things that are not for my highest and greatest good on a daily basis, and also letting go of the power within me that I get to share with others. So I'm very grateful to be here with you this morning. The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. Kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, and here I'll stay. Let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around, and one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. Let it go, and I'll rise like the break of dawn. Let it go, let it go. That perfect girl is gone. Here I stand in the light of day. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway.
Shannon Kearns, thank you.
Wow. Let it go. Let it go. Just let it go. Right? Let it go. That was beautiful, Shannon. Thank you. Yes. From Frozen. Did y'all like that? She read, okay. Wow. So this month we've been talking about the 5 spiritual practices. And 2 of them, sacred giving and sacred service, are very much relational. It's going beyond our own individual selves and spreading that, letting it go, and letting it flow so that it touches many more lives versus if we just held it in. So it's about, by doing practices that we actually are establishing to align ourselves in this unitive relationship with all of life. And that's what spiritual practice is all about, whether it's sacred giving or spiritual mind treatment or meditation or visioning or sacred service. It's unifying ourselves with that relationship with God, all of life, source, spirit, whatever we choose to call it. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't sense that I'm unified with it all the time, 24/7. And so for me, spiritual practices help to remind me and to get me back into that groove of that unitive relationship. And so Ernest Holmes actually taught us what the nature of love is really all about. And the nature of love, what it's really about, is the self-givingness of spirit. It is about the self-givingness of spirit. That is its nature. I know that, I've certainly sought to receive love. But Holmes is saying it's the self-givingness of spirit. It is that givingness that is truly love. And if that other person's not willing to give love, I have nothing to receive. If I'm not willing to give love, there's nothing for you to receive. And so that's what he's telling us. It's this self-givingness of love. In other words, giving is God's nature. You've heard me say this unabashed giving is what God is all about. Giving is God's nature. Therefore, it's our nature. It's actually our nature to give. If you watch a child, they have a toy or whatever, their first instinct is, you want this? It's like to give it away. Now, they may realize oh, you're going to keep that. I don't get that back. And you might see that child go, this happened with my 5-year-old nephew when I first encountered him. He gave me his favorite toy. This little car. Austin was like, here, Aunt Karen, take my car. He was so happy to give me that. Then he thought about it a little bit later and he said, can I have that car back? I said, no. I like this car. It's my mental equivalent. I didn't say that. But then he thought about it, and then he was like, okay. And he just went on. He just let it go. There was that moment. But it was his nature to give. And so when we are giving, we are actually doing what we naturally are meant to do. And when we're not, we're actually going against our own nature. And what I have found, I don't know about you, but what I found is when I am going against anything that's my natural nature for a period of time, if I sort of am not giving for a period of time, I actually sort of get restricted. My flow gets blocked up, shall we say. Because that is who we are. That's the nature of who we are. And so if I'm going against the nature of me, then I'm actually going against me. The most important aspect of the most repeated New Testament verse for Christians is John 3:16. Y'all know John 3? Yeah, come on. John 3:16, right? But the most important aspect of John 3:16 is not to be lost on us, on anyone. And it is, for God so loved the world that he gave. For God so loved the world that he gave. What if we put a period right there? That is the most important aspect. God is this divine givingness of the universe. And so we're made in that image and likeness. We are made in that divine givingness. And when we are free-flowing with the substance of life and our experience, we begin to see ourselves as the giver. And so maybe it's time, if I haven't done it yet, maybe it's time to turn it on its head. And instead of me going out and living my life to get, what if I went out to go out to give? Because in all of life, as I am being that open vessel, that I am the vessel, I am that channel, and freely I give, life has no choice but to give. As I give love, I receive love. As I give of my time and I am in service beyond myself, people come out of the woodworks to give of their time to me. I cannot tell you, I can look across this room and I see so many faces of our community that give of their time here. I can count the staff basically on one hand. And yet so many people are behind the scenes giving of their time in sacred service so that we have the beautiful experience that we have. And we all get to choose how we give of that time. You know, if the executive, let's say, is so busy with his or her career and feels like they have no time in their life in order to give of themselves, volunteer to nonprofit or whatever, then perhaps that circle doesn't come back around, and so that one can start feeling constricted, like, I don't even have time to self-nourish myself, right? Think about that. It's like, I don't have time. I don't have time. But if I put the priority, say, first on sacred service, then I feel like I do have time, and then I do nurture myself. You see? Jesus clearly articulated the divine law, give and it will be given to you. That's from Luke. The divine flow requires but one thing of you, and that is your consent. You must consent to be a receiving and giving channel. And it's like opening the faucet, the water will flow. And so is it last on our list to give, or is it first on our list to give? And there are times where sometimes something that's being called for is the most precious, precious thing we could choose to give. And do we choose to give it? And so I want to invite Doreen up to tell a really beautiful story to us and the children about just that.
There is a legend among the Comanche people. There was a time when the rains did not come. It was a very dark and sad time in their history. For without rain, there was little food. And many people suffered. And those who suffered the most were the very old and the very young. The shaman of the village would go to the mountain to pray, to ask great spirits what they could do to bring the rain. And on the 7th year, on the new moon, the shaman once again went up to the mountain. And there he fasted and chanted and prayed. Great spirits, tell me what the people can do to bring the rains. And on the 3rd day, he received a message. When the shaman came down from the mountain, the people gathered around and they said, "Tell us, wise one, tell us, what did this great spirit say?" And the shaman shook his head. And he said, the great spirits told me that what we have done was to take and take and take from this precious Mother Earth. And we have never given anything back to say thank you. But the great spirits say that if we give something back of great value, something precious, then the rains will come. The people were happy to hear this. And so the women among them gathered together and they said, what could we give back? Could it be our blankets, that which we have woven by our hands? And then they thought, no, not our blankets. We need our blankets to keep us warm at night. And the men gathered, and the men talked, shall it be our bows and our arrows? But then they said, no, not our bows and our arrows, for we need them for the little hunting that we still have. And so the people did not know what they could give back. And they went to their teepees to sleep. Among them lived a little girl. Her name was She Who Lives Alone. She who lives alone was named that, for she had lost her mother and father and her family to the famine. And though she was adopted by loving people, she still missed her family. And she possessed one thing that reminded her of the loved ones. And it was a doll. A doll that was made by her mother's own hands. A doll that was made in the image and likeness of her father, who was a great hunter. And woven in the braids of the doll was little blue feathers. And the little girl loved that doll. And every night she would take it out of its bundle and hold it to her heart. And she could feel the love of her family who had gone before her. And so that night, when she held the doll to her heart, she wondered, is this the gift to give back? And as her family slept, she left the teepee. With her doll, she took it up to the mountain. And there she built a fire. And raising her doll to the heavens, she cried, tell me, great spirits, tell me what I should do. And just then, a star streaked across the sky. And before she could change her mind, she who was alone took that doll and she threw it into the fire. And she watched her most prized possession. She watched the thing she loved the most burn as tears fell down her face. She watched it burn until all that was left were the ashes. And as her custom, when the ashes were cool, she gathered them and she sprinkled them to the north and said, thank you. To the west, thank you. To the south, thank you. To the east, thank you. And then she fell asleep. As soon as the sun rose the next morning, she who was alone woke up. And to her surprise, everywhere where she had sprinkled the ashes grew little blue flowers. And the people below could see in the clearing the blue, and they all went up the mountain. And when the shaman saw the flowers, he asked the little girl what had happened the night before, and she told him. She told him how she had given her most precious possession back to the earth to say thank you. And when the shaman saw the flowers, he knew the people had been forgiven. And just then, the heavens opened and the rains began to come. At first, just a little bit of rain. Take your hand like this and one finger, and let me hear the little rain. Then a little more rain. A little more. Then more rain. Until finally the heavens opened and the rains fell onto the earth. And the people danced and sang their songs of gratitude. And the little girl from that day on was known by a new name. She who dearly loves her people. And we are reminded whenever we see those blue bonnets blooming to give back selflessly wherever we can. To give back. I am so honored to be standing here before you to acknowledge one of our teachers who has given so much to our community. And at this time, I'd like to call up Jeremy Wanamaker. Jeremy has been with Youth and Family Ministry since 2006, before I was even here. And he has selflessly served in that capacity for many, many years, every single week for many, many years, until very recently when he decided to express himself in other ways to serve and be the vessel to be used. And I still call on him whenever I go out of town to be the kahuna in charge of the village, because I know he will come and know exactly what to do. He shows up in that selfless way. And what I really loved about him when he was in the classroom was how he took some of our complex philosophical ideas and how he brought them down to a level that children can understand. And so we have something very special for you, Jeremy. And I was asked by Reverend Karen to give a very special gift to you other than just a little plaque. And so I asked Sade, who has been in your classroom since she was yay high, to come, for she's an artist in our community. This is the gift that she has to give. And she made a very special art piece for you. And the children also contributed in the class. So I'm going to turn it over to her so she can present it.
Jeremy, you have been such a positive and empowering figure for all the children and teens here at CSL. And we would just like to present you with this art piece that I originally created, and the kids and teens here helped me finish it by adding a little bit of their love. And so we'd like to thank you for helping us grow through the years.
Thank you for helping us grow, Jeremy. All right, stay here, Mr. Jeremy. So this intergenerational service also includes a graduation. And so I'm going to ask if there are any children here in these particular categories to come up, because we want to acknowledge you as you move into the next classroom. This is a rite of passage. So if you are a kindergartner having gone now into first grade, please come up. Any first graders? I'm not sure who all is here. Okay. If you are a third grader and going into fourth grade, or do we have any fourth graders here? Come on up here. Right here, stand right in here. Okay, fourth grade, going into fourth grade. This is our what's called the preteen class. We have some more? Okay, good. And then the next class level are those who were in fifth grade but now into sixth grade. Any sixth graders here? Come on up here. We have a spot right there for you. This is our sixth graders. Good, our middle school. And then right over here. And then we have those who are in eighth grade but are now in ninth grade, our high school. So do we have any ninth graders here? Yay! Come on up here. There's some more spots here. Wow. There's some spots over here. And although every child has moved into another level of in school, regular school, into class, this is how it's broken down into our classes here. These are our graduates. We have one final group, and that is our seniors who are now in college. Where are you? Please come up. I think we have two. Yes, they came back for this. Come, yes. Our college students. We love you so much. Any teachers now who are in our classrooms, please come and just hold the space for us. As we acknowledge these students who have graduated to the next level, and each level is a level in consciousness, the level where that they're taking on more understanding and more of this teachings on the level that they are now in. This is significant, and we honor you for that commitment. And thank you to the parents who bring them, because you are supporting this generation, taking what we know at this age and taking it out into the world so that it does become a world that works for everyone. They understand. They're getting it now. So let us just give them a big hand for that. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you so much. You're welcome now to come down, or you can go back to where you were sitting. Thank you so much.
You see, the true benefits of sacred service is not a material advantage. Neither is sacred giving. It's an inner revolution. I would imagine that Jeremy has had an inner revolution by being in sacred service over these 8 years. You see, the reason why it's an inner revolution is because we become more fluid. And as we become more fluid, we are more willing to risk. And what we're willing to risk is the less emphasis and focus on possession. And we're willing to risk more in people. And the boundaries between us and others become less palpable. We cannot feel those boundaries anymore because we feel part of the whole. And that's what sacred service and sacred giving is all about in this relationship that we have with one another. We feel more of a part of the whole. I would imagine any of us that have ever given our time in service would agree with that. We feel more part of that whole, part of that community, part of that nonprofit, part of that school, part of anything that is occurring. And we get to realize that it's possible to share our resources. It's possible to share our emotions. And most importantly, it's possible to share ourselves with one another. And we can do it in practical, small ways. We can see someone at their car at the grocery store and help them with their groceries. We can pick up trash after ourselves instead of littering. One of the things that I enjoyed the most living in the neighborhood in the Bay Area is every week I would take the rolling trash cans up from the street behind the gate of my neighbor's house, because that connected me with Libby. By doing that mere act, so small, but it was for me, I felt part of the whole. I actually did more things in the neighborhood, and so the whole was missed. We have opportunities to do this in our own community. One of the things that I really talked to Dr. Petra about before coming here is what's community service like at CSLDallas? Well, it's time to reinvigorate it. It's time to be a community service beyond our community. And so we're going to start visioning. I'm very grateful that one of our new licensed practitioners, Bettina, she came to me and she said, you know, this is part of my ministry. I want to be a part of this right at the perfect moment. And so if you would like to participate in visioning, you don't have to do it, but be a part of visioning of what this whole community is calling us to be in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. How we can be of service beyond our community, then come on these 2 nights in September, Monday nights. Just come and vision with us. And collectively, we all have an opportunity next Saturday. It's the Center for Spiritual Living World Day of Service, where communities, our 450 communities that choose to participate all over the country, are going to do something in their local area to be of service, to give sacred service. So we had plans for something else, and that actually didn't come to fruition. And so we're gonna help clean up a park in Irving, where we can be of service, and imagine all the children, all the adults that come to that park on Sunday and go, wow, what happened? And so the 5 Centers for Spiritual Livings are participating, so we will be amongst the whole, the more whole of us. So come Saturday morning. There are details out in the breezeway. Sign up to be a volunteer. Give one Saturday morning to be of sacred service. That's a great place to start. Whatever the gift, one precondition is essential. Whatever you choose to give in those spontaneous or planned moments when you are in sacred service, you have to offer yourself in that moment of giving all of yourself. Just like the little girl, she had to give all of her doll away. She had to give all of herself away. So the great news is when you are generous, you don't spare yourself. And that's what it's all about. Again, Holmes tells us what love is. It is the self-givingness of spirit. We are here to be that giving vessel. And we are meant to go beyond ourselves, our immediate family. Because really, where does family begin? And where does family end? We have all become part of this one big family of all ages. And I know that there are people in our family that if we just get to know one another a little bit more, we'll find ways in which we can help serve that single mother with 3 kids who doesn't ever get time off. Or, Jeremy, you don't have to show up this Sunday because I'm serving. Or we could go on because all of us have something going on. If we get to know one another just a little bit more, take time, we can find where we can serve. And that goes for anybody else out in the world as we meet them. Be the vessel. Practice it. See how it works out for you. Don't spare yourself. Be that self-givingness of spirit. Be love. Let us pray. How good it is to stand in the awareness of life itself, love itself, that self-givingness, a spirit that unabashedly gives itself so freely. It holds on to nothing. It lets it go. It gave itself so much that each person within the sound of this voice hears it, feels it, becomes it, is it. We are blessed by the children and called to be like children and to freely give of ourselves to one another. And so I know in this moment that there is a new awakening. For once one is awake, they cannot go back to sleep, as Rumi says. We are awakened to, we are here to be givers of love, to be givers of life, so that each of us can receive all of that. And so I know for this community, we give of ourselves to one another, our hearts, our smiles, our hugs, our support. We lift each other up. We give of our time. We give. And by giving, one more life, just one, is touched. One child gets to hear how great they are, how magnificent they are, how courageous they are earlier in life, so that we each really come to that place where all it's about is to love ourselves and then to let that love go. And so it is.